Welcome to Marked Manor, where we explore the shadows that linger long after the crime. Tonight, we travel to Murdock, Nebraska, where in April of 2006, a brutal double homicide would leave a family forever shaken. This is the story of Wayne and Sharmon Stock. Wayne and Sharmon were the kind of couple you'd want as neighbors. Wayne, a lifelong farmer and former Nebraskan National Guard, was known for his generosity. Sharmon, a paraprofessional, was well known for her contagious energy. The Stocks got married and decided to settle down in a sprawling farmhouse, where 3 kids were soon added to the picture. Decades passed as the kids grew up, and soon enough, it was just Mr. and Mrs. Stock at the farm. On the morning after Easter, their son Andrew arrived to their farm. Noticing it seemed eerily quiet, he decided to check on his parents. Upstairs, he would horrifically find both dead. Both appeared to have been shot in their sleep. Wayne was shot once in the knee, once in the back of the head, and a possible third to the eye. Sharmon, point blank in her face. A telephone was still clutched in her grasp. The crime scene was analyzed, and investigators determined that nothing of value was stolen. However, they did conclude an unlocked window on the first floor had been forced open, and that the assailant left behind a marijuana pipe, flashlight, and shotgun shell casings. But when looking at the blood splatter analysis, it depicted a tale of there being 2 assailants. Usually, the splatter would be one continuous pattern, but here void spots were detected, suggesting the path had been obstructed. After collecting information on possible leads, the Stock's nephew, Matthew Livers, was brought in for questioning. Matthew is described to have an IQ of 63, and was deemed emotionally vulnerable. This was due to an intellectual disability, which significantly affects his ways of reasoning, understanding complex information, and coping with stressful situations. After an 11-hour interrogation, Matthew confessed, and implicated his own cousin, Nicholas Sampson. But there was a problem. The confession was riddled with inconsistencies. Matthew claimed to have used a gun that didn't match, described events that didn't align, and both had alibis that were confirmed by witnesses. Still, the police believed they had caught their assailants, and were not giving up on the current theory. Locating where Sampson worked, they soon arrested and brought him in. To the public it was case closed, but behind the scenes, cracks were forming. In hindsight, the confession consisted of responses to leading yes or no questions, suggesting he was being prompted rather than recalling events. Also, there was a lack of physical evidence, as no fingerprints were located at the scene, nor DNA of any kind. Then, out of the blue, a blood sample appeared in Sampson's brother's car, that allegedly tied the two to the scene. This search was inspired from witnesses seeing a tan car fleeing the area, and from the stated use during the confession. It was at this point that the cracks finally gave way. CSI Director, David Kofod, had been found to have planted this evidence, helping the fabricated story to fit with the narrative at large. His actions would later lead to a conviction for evidence tampering, sentencing him to 20 months to 4 years in state prison, as well as paying a total of nearly $6.6 million to the 2 cousins. Now, in the midst of all the confusion, another piece of evidence was finally proving to be the lead they needed. It was a gold ring, with an inscription reading, "Love always, Corey and Ryan." On the inside band, there was also a code, which investigators would use to track who purchased it. This ring was found inside the Stock's residence, and lucky enough, it contained DNA. That ring was found to be bought inside Walmart, at an A&A Jewelers. A woman by the name of Corey had purchased it for her now ex-boyfriend, Ryan. The day the police called was the last day that business was going to be open. What are the odds? Ryan had kept the ring in his truck, which had recently been reported stolen. That tip led investigators to Wisconsin, as the assailants for the vehicle theft had already been apprehended. Prior to leaving, investigators did one last thing. They decided to test the DNA found at the Stock's home, with the teenagers' DNA on file. They had finally found the positive match. They brought the teenagers in for questioning, and executed a search warrant on one of their apartments. During this search, they found a love letter about the crime, a shotgun shell that matched those found at the scene, and a disturbing diary entry that read, "I killed someone. He was older. I loved it. I wish I could do it all the time. If Greg doesn't watch it, I am going to just leave one day and go do it myself." The real killers had finally been found. After interrogating the teenagers, confessions soon spilled out like word vomit, and they admitted to what they had done. This was how that tragic night played out. Hundreds of miles away, two teenagers, Gregory Fester and Jessica Reed, were spiraling out of control on a drug-fueled crime spree. They had stolen cars, broken into homes, and armed themselves with stolen shotguns. On April 17th, they arrived in Nebraska, high and reckless. They needed money to continue their rampage, and decided to choose a house at random to rob. They chose the Stock's farmhouse. They forced a window open and gained access to the first floor of the house. Once inside, a door was unlocked, allowing the other to enter the premises as well. They walked up a floor, and stood over the bed where the Stocks were asleep. Fester fired off a shot at the couple, missing both the targets. Sharmon immediately screamed, grabbing for the telephone, while Wayne struggled with Fester. The gun went off, hitting Wayne in his knee. Fester yelled at Reed to do something, as the two men were caught in a violent altercation. Reed fired her shotgun, hitting Wayne in the eye, causing him to make a crawl for safety. Fester followed, delivering the final shot to Wayne's head, ending his life, and spraying Reed with the blood splatter. Fester turned, and walked back to Sharmon, firing point blank at her in the face. They fled in an erratic manner, leaving behind all the evidence found. During trial, Fester pled guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder, receiving life in prison. Reed, just 17, originally pled guilty but later recanted her confession. She too was sentenced to life. Matthew Livers and Nicholas Sampson were exonerated, walking away as free men. Their case became a symbol of everything that can go wrong in a criminal investigation. Coercive interrogations, fabricated evidence, and nothing more than strong-willed tunnel vision. For the Stock family, the pain remains. They lost 2 loving parents, in a senseless act of violence. But their memory lives on in Murdock, a place that will never forget their kindness. And at the end of the day, that is what the family wishes for. Their parents to be remembered by their generosity, and not by the tragic story they fell victim to. Our team's deepest condolences go out to the friends and family of Wayne and Sharmon Stock. If you want more true crime stories from our team, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Thank you.